Yeah, my grandfather was not the same kind of character, but my granddad was one of those people that everybody liked, you know, and the world did bend around him. Wherever he went, he landed on his feet, you know, like he was breaking up with my grandmother. They lived apart they were actually divorced for the last sort of, I would say 10 or 15 years of his life. He was divorced, so he lived on his own in a little cottage in Dumfriesshire. And I don't know exactly how he got the cottage, but he was posh English, my granddad. You know, went to private school and all that kind of stuff, and was very respectful of authority, but you know, could speak to anybody, you know, and he spoke to everybody as if they were the same. And like I said, I don't know how he found it, but he ended up getting this house, this beautiful little cottage in the wonderful landscape of Dumfriesshire, and he got it. He was renting it for £1 a month or something like that, or a penny a month or something. The guy who owned it was a local sort of what would you say? A local landowner. He owned a lot of land around there, and he just wanted the house to be looked after. So rather than pay somebody to look after it or have to look after it himself, he just was looking for somebody that would look after it, and he knew my granddad would. So my granddad basically got the last sort of 10 or 15 years of his living expenses, as far as houses are concerned, paid for, just because he was a nice guy.
Wow.
So it kind of worked out for him, you know.
That's awesome. I like that.
Strange, isn't it? So there are definitely those people that just... And the funny thing is, they don't often do anything that you could put your finger on, but like you say, when they walk into a room, the room changes, you know. There's just something about that person.
Yeah.
And you see everybody look, or everybody stops their conversations, or just little things.
Yeah.
And of course, being sort of semi-autistic or somewhere on the spectrum, these things, that either I don't notice them at all, or they're very large to me, and other people don't notice them because other people just know them anyway. But to me, it's like, wow, did you see that? Yeah, that's what happens. Does it? Oh, first time I've noticed it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I miss that man. I lived with him for a bit too when I was going to college. I lived with him in his house where the house he was... Actually, I'd say he wasn't living in the house when he died. He sold his house shortly before he died because he had remarried. Like, my grandmother passed away in her 60s, and yeah, so it was just different.
Yeah, and my granddad was great. I never knew him get angry. I never saw him angry except once, when I was a stupid teenager, and my cousin was coming to visit, and I sort of felt as though I owned the place, you know, and my cousin, who the hell's this, you know? And I must have said something about him, you know, and my granddad got angry with me and sort of let me know, you know, he says, he's my grandson too, that sort of thing. And I was, oh, of course. Oh, right, okay.
Here's a picture of him on my phone here. I was going to show you.
Oh, brilliant.
My favorite picture. This is him on a fishing boat, flipping the bird. And this picture here, he has his picture blown up that's a picture of a picture in a picture frame.
Right.
That's about like this wide,
right,
like this tall. And he had that in his office, like on the wall, sort of like, this is like the way someone would have a portrait of themselves.
Yeah.
So for him, instead of getting a painting of him wearing like a suit sitting by a fireplace or something, it was him in a fishing boat drinking a beer, giving the bird.
Hold on a minute, I've got hold on. Since we're swapping grandfathers. Oh, this is really dirty. I'm so embarrassed. I've dusted this for a long time. Let me just wipe my grandfather down. And that was him. I don't know if you'll be able to see this at all. Can you see?
Oh yeah, that's a nice picture. He's smoking in his picture too.
Yeah, that's him as a young man on the marshes. He was a great hunter and shooter. He loved all that stuff. He volunteered for the army in the Second World War. He was too old to go and fight, but because he was a boat builder, he realised that he could go and contribute his ship repair skills, which he did out in the Mediterranean. And these are his I'll put them on just for a... God, they are so filthy as well. Can you see me?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those are cool.
I can't see you because these are filthy, but those were his flight goggles, because he was into... he wanted to build gliders. I've got all these old books about building gliders. So if you ever need to know how to build a glider out of wood and canvas, I'm your man. Well, I will be once I've read the books. So I've got all his old gliding books here. So I think he got these because I think he was... I don't know if he ever took flying lessons, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because he was that kind of guy that just wanted to do all that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Life was an adventure for him, I think, and the stories he told about the war and just all these strange things that happened to him. He lost... That was before he lost his eye, he lost the end of his finger, and he had half a leg when I knew him. So he'd had all these injuries, you know, sort of had accrued. He got polio during the war. There were 6 guys in the tent, and he was the only one that got out alive. And he lost most of the muscle mass in one leg, so he kind of walked with a limp. He was a guitar player, but he'd lost the end of one of his fingers. Can't remember which one. A bit like Tony Iommi, you know. Mm-hmm. In the boatyard, he put his hand on a piece of wood and didn't realise that there was a hawser on it. You know, a metal rope, and it caught his finger and dragged him up in the air, and the end of his finger came off. And he lost the sight in one eye because a staple came off the bandsaw belt and flew across the boatyard and hit him in the eye.
Oh, wow. But
he was as cheerful as anything. He never let any of these things bother him.
That's good.
He was great.
That's good.
Granddads are great, aren't they?
Yeah, they definitely can be. I remember having fond memories of my grandparents, and watching my little daughter interact with my parents too, and watching that bond form already, you know. And,
yes, you're in a great situation there because you've got the family round about you.
Yeah, you know, and it's you know, it can be overwhelming in some cases and annoying in other cases, but it's nice to see that, you know, I was thinking about it the other day that my daughter has already spent more time with my parents than I got to spend with either of my grandparents because they live together.
Yeah,
you know, like it's exponentially more, you know, like just saturated, because I remember my grandparents lived an hour away, you know, from an hour drive, like on the highway from where we lived growing up. So it was, you know, it was like, I don't, like in my mind, I'm trying to think like I might see them at like 4 or 5 times a year, I think, you know, and maybe it was more. It's hard for me to tell, as, you know, when you look back in your own childhood memories, you know, but it was few and far between, other than like a couple times. Like my grandfather hated the Canadian winters, so him and my grandmother would go down to Florida for like 6 weeks or something,
right,
in the spring, and they'd rent a condo down on the Gulf of Mexico side of Florida. So we would occasionally, like, I think I recall 3 times going down there for March break. I don't know if you guys have March break in the UK, where everybody gets a week off school in the middle of March. These days we get a week in February for some reason that I don't understand. But that wasn't there when I was a kid, so I don't know why that happens, but it does. February of all times. Yeah, I think it has something to do with the college football in the US, or college basketball, really? Or something. I forget. Yeah, well, the Americans take their sporting events like they're very serious down there, right? And a lot of the traditions leak up to here, you know. So, because I can't think of any other reason to have March break other than the fact that teachers wanted a paid holiday before their big paid holiday, because they have a lot of paid holidays.
They want a supplementary paid holiday to finance their actual paid holiday. Yeah. So they so I don't know. It was so we would go to we would load up the minivan, you know, or the caravan as you call it, you know. And it was actually called the Caravan. It was a Dodge Caravan was the brand, right? And well, a caravan over here, a caravan is the thing that trails behind the car, so it's a separate thing.
Oh,
so what would we call that? Just a touring van or something like that, or the van, or
yeah, we call minivans here, because a large, like a van would be something a mechanic would drive, you know, with like a bunch of tools in it, and then a minivan is a little smaller and it's got 3 rows of seats, so you could fit 7 people in it.
Oh, we call that a people carrier.
A people carrier. Okay. Right on. And so we would fill the people carrier up with some bags and some food, and we would drive to Florida. And
drive to Florida? You drove to Florida?
Yeah, it was a 24-hour drive.
Oh, for God's sake!
And
wow, that's a big drive.
It is actually. Well, it's about the same. The drive's about the same distance as it is to drive to here from Ontario, like from where I used to live.
Of course, so we would you live on a continent. You're actually on the fucking continent.
Yeah,
I'm on a tiny island off the shores of the continent. So these distances seem to me to be like incomprehensible. Even in Europe, it's a. Of course, I don't live there, but it's a relatively new phenomenon that you can just go between countries. That was not always the case. So even though the land mass is similar to what you guys have got, you wouldn't have just easily travelled from one place to another, because it would be, different rules and regulations about cars and all sorts of things, and having to go through multiple borders. And of course they fixed that. I don't actually know when that was fixed, but it was fixed at some point. So now once you're in Europe, you can just, I guess it is like North America, you can kind of go from one place to another, except for the Brits, of course, because the Brits, even when we were in it, we still required a passport, which was, I just could never understand, because I just wanted to, I would have loved to just get on a boat or a plane or a train or something and just go, but it was always that thing, I've got to go through flipping customs. And
it used to be like that here. Actually, it's gone backwards. Like I go across Canada without any problem, but the US, I need a passport to go to the US, and I got to go through customs and everything. That's hence the whole searching my car and everything.
Yeah,
border,
that was a great story, by the way. I love that story. when I was editing the stuff, it was quite often, I don't know if you're like this as well, but when I'm in the throes of a conversation, quite often there's little nuances and things that I don't catch. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But when I listen back to it, it's because I have to listen to it to edit it, and it's interesting catching all these sort of things. So I really enjoyed revisiting your story and the sort of the American cheese thing, which was we got a movie idea out of that, I think. So
exactly, I liked it too, and I enjoy listening back to the conversations myself as you release them, and sometimes I get embarrassed by things I've said or misspoken, or misunderstood something you've said. And sometimes I listen to it, I'm going, is that one of the times when the screen was glitching and that's why I interpreted something? Because a few times I've been way off in left field with what you were saying, and I'm thinking like, how could I have been that far off the mark? But I would, because I can't remember, because we've had glitchy moments where I can't hear what you're saying, or there's like a lag, and I'm just kind of like, I don't want to stop. I don't want to be like, whoa, I can't hear you. I just let you talk, and then hope that it comes back to normal before you finish talking.
Yes. Well, I think we're always in the same sort of ballpark. I think we're always. Yeah, there are times when that happens, but the biggest problem, it's not really a problem, but it's just annoying, is the lag.
Yeah. I
think if we were in the same room, it would be great, because we would understand, the body language would be there, and all that kind of stuff,
and the timing.
The timing. So yeah, but I've got that down now. I try not to edit every single kind of little crosstalk where we talk across one another. And my main thing is when I listen to the podcast and listen to myself, I go, oh God, shut the fuck up, man. You're just going on and on about something, but I can't help it. It's just the way I am.
Yeah, I get the same way myself sometimes, and I know we're probably more critical of each other. I mean, of ourselves rather than each other, because it's, the sound of your own voice. You're critical. You're always you got more invested in what you say rather than what someone else says, because it's judging it, right? It's like you could have a room full of a picture of a bunch of naked people, but the only one you'd be looking at is yourself. You go like,
no, I wouldn't be looking at that picture at all. My eyes would be firmly closed.
Well, you know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you better check out and see how you compare to everybody else. No.
Yeah, or just. Or whether you're naked or not, like anytime, like if there's a group photo, like everybody else looks fine, but I'm going like, oh, look, I can't believe I wore that shirt, or I can't believe I was, or my hair was messy, or whatever it is. You kind of like get that self-conscious.
Yeah.
And then you feel a little like, it can make me feel ill a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's your ego, isn't it? That's your ego sort of checking you out.
Yeah.
I think I probably used to do that, but I don't think I do that anymore. I don't give a fuck anymore.
Well,
I don't care.
Well,
although yesterday I met somebody that I hadn't seen for a while, a girl from work, a nice lassie called Julie. Always got on really well with her, but I think it's because it's a girl and I used to get on well with her. I was immediately conscious of my missing tooth, which I normally don't care about at all. But I don't know whether her eyes flicked to it and that made me think, oh, but I don't know. But yeah, sometimes even at this advanced stage of years, I still do get embarrassed sometimes by the basic lack of sartorial and presentational elegance. I just have never had any, really. Yeah. That's why I always dress as simply as I can, because I don't understand why people would wear things that they wear. Why that shirt on that day but not that shirt on another day? Why is your hair that way? So that's why I either shave all of my hair off or I just let it grow, because I don't understand why it makes any difference. Aside from practical things like keeping the whiskers out of my mouth, so I trim around my mouth.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to get soup caught in my beard. But aside from that,
Yeah, I do know that, and it's we mentioned the eye darting towards your tooth. It's funny you say that, because that's something that that bugs me. Like I have a hard time with eye contact, so I realize sometimes how much that must affect other people who I'm having conversation with when I don't look them in the eye when I talk to them.
Really?
And they're probably thinking, I have a hard time with it. Like and I don't know, some people I don't, some people I do. Like my wife, I have no problem looking her in the eye when I talk to her, and Mackenzie, me and Mackenzie make eye contact for as long as she's willing to make eye contact with me. The other day we were laying in bed and she stared into my eyes for a good 10 minutes straight, and I thought that so far has been one of those magical moments I've had with her, is just having this deep eye contact with her, but yeah, I know, like, and I consciously, if I can't keep eye contact with somebody, I try and not stare at them anywhere, right? Because I know if I'm talking to somebody and they have a hard time with eye contact, it makes me very uncomfortable. So which I find is weird. Like, how could I be uncomfortable with somebody having the same problem I have? But that's why I become consciously aware of like how much I should probably try and be better at eye contact, because there's a friend my brother has made here in Nova Scotia who's now becoming one of my friends, a guy named Justin, and he has very strange eye maneuvers when he's talking to you. He'll look at your shoulder and then he'll like look at your leg, and then it's in. And it took me a while to be like, is he judging me, or is that just, and I'm like, wait, he's doing what I do. He clearly has a hard time when
Well, I can't say I have a problem with at least I don't think I have a problem with eye contact, but when we were younger, Ali used to say to me, and Lily would say it when she was younger, Dad, you're staring. And I would find that I had been staring at someone, like on someone on the bus that I found interesting, I would just stare at them. And didn't know I was doing it. And I think I still do it to this day, but the people around me have stopped telling me, because there's no point, because I'm going to do it anyway. But yeah, I think I do have a problem with eye contact, but it's probably the opposite. It's probably that people feel as though they're being forensically disassociated, as I kind of stare into them. It's a weird one. It is a weird one, that, isn't it? Because it's so sort of what's the word? It's so baked into the way you are.
Yeah.
The eye contact and body language and all that kind of stuff. But you're not constantly with language. With verbal language anyway, you've got a kind of opportunity to finesse it as it comes out. You can find the right word, or if you don't have the right word, you can pause for a minute and you can just find it. But body language, there's not much you can do about body language. If you look uncomfortable, you're going to look uncomfortable, and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
And that's what we were saying about our granddads, when your granddad, this little granddad walks into the room, sort of people are aware something about the body language, my granddad was the same. He was like, he would walk in and he was a big sort of big chested guy, sort of like full of energy. And that just transferred to people, it's just transferred over.